real business owners.
Welcome back to the Real Business Owners Podcast. This is episode 49 with myself, Trevor Cowley, and Kale Goodman. No
What's
nicknames
up?
today.
No, I'm just an average Joe today.
Yeah, you got a regular government name. So, guys, this episode's brought to you by Easier Accounting, per usual. Guys, if you need anything in regards to bookkeeping, tax prep, payroll, if you have simple questions in regards to entity formations or whatever it is, just make sure you send us a direct message and we'll get you taken care of. This episode is going to be about life-altering moments, right? We all have moments inside of our life where, you know, we get so sick of the way something is, whether it's our financial situation, whether it's our physique, right? You've got to get to that point where you're so fed up with whatever it is that you're dealing with that you want to make a change, right? And so I've had a couple of examples in my life where, you know, there was a decision made because I was at a very, very low point, and I decided to make an adjustment, right? And I think everybody gets presented the opportunity to have these life-altering moments happen because everybody hits low points, right? It's just whether or not you actually do it. That's the separator, right? Because one thing that everybody deals with is struggle and low points. Everybody will hit highs, everyone will hit lows. That's just this little thing called life, right? Whether you're talking about business or life in general, it doesn't matter. We're all going to hit highs and lows, and how you handle those lows and deal with those lows will determine how your life ultimately ends up. It's not how you deal with the highs. Everybody can, you know, ride high when everything's going good and make all the right choices, but it's about making the right choices when you're at a very low spot in your life, right? And the reason why I thought this was kind of a fitting subject is because of everything that we're obviously going through. There's probably a lot of people hitting a low point. Totally. A lot of people doing some self-reflection. A lot of people wondering if the path that they were on prior to everything happening with the COVID-19 virus scare thing, if that was their calling or if that's what they should be doing, is that what they're going to go back to, you know, once everything that is lifted and normal life happens again, right? Right. And so, you know, basically, you know, I wanted to utilize this episode to kind of share stories of life-altering moments, right?
Absolutely. What's your story? What's your first one you got on mind?
So yesterday, I just thought of two different stories. One when I was a little bit younger.
I'm thinking of some right now because we didn't talk about what we're going to talk about.
No, we didn't talk about it. No.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, I got a couple. You know, but I want to hear your hot one first.
It's a good subject. It's a good topic because sometimes it takes a low to change the trajectory of your life, right? And what you're ultimately going to do and how you handle the situation, right? Yeah. But I would say, you know, one moment in 7th grade, so it was my first day of middle school, right? Yeah. So I walk into the middle school stoked as shit. I'm a big kid now, you know. I've got my classes and, you know, I need to find, you know, my locker and the excitement of walking into the first day of middle school, right? Yeah. And so I walk in, open the doors, and I'm just kind of looking side to side, taking it all in. Everybody's scurrying, right? The excitement of the first day. Everyone's got their new shoes and shit. You know how everyone lays out their shit the night before. Mm-hmm. And literally within the first minute, a 9th grader walks up to me and says, "Hey, kid, the elementary school's up there." And I was like, oh, shit, here we go. This is middle school. And so at that moment, like, I was really taken back by that, you know, because I was excited and happy to be in middle school. And obviously I was a small dude, right? And so at that moment, literally in that moment, I knew that I was going to start lifting weights. I was going to start exercising because I knew that this was now a different environment, that I had to be prepared to potentially protect myself. I didn't know what else was going to happen. Yeah. That happened within the first minute of me walking into middle school. So my thoughts were, okay, if this is what it's going to be like, I need to beef up. Mm-hmm. I need to be prepared to protect myself if some shit's going to go down, right? And so I remember from that moment on, I made sure I went and switched a class and ended up getting a weight training class and every single summer, I was at the middle school lifting weights because they made that available to anybody in middle school. You could pay like a $50 fee, and it was open from like 9 to 12 every single day in the summer or whatever it was, right? Yeah. And so I would say because of that moment, that's probably the moment that I started taking exercising or lifting weights very seriously, because I felt like that if I remained just a pipsqueak, then I would probably end up getting pushed around quite a bit through middle school or high school or whatever it was. And so inside of that moment, I decided to take on weightlifting and take it serious. And now that's kind of become a part of who I am, right? Yeah. I like to exercise and all that. So in that low moment, it changed my thought process and made me take something else very seriously, which ultimately has served me very, very well over many years, right? Yeah. Exercising and lifting weights have been a large part of my life ever since middle school, right? Besides a little drug stint that I went through there for a minute, which I'll talk about again as another life-altering moment here in a minute. But share
little 4 or 5 year stint,
Yeah, I guess I could say that's a negative life-altering moment, but took me down, and I was at a low place and ended up coming back out of it. But share maybe a life-altering moment with us in terms of like where you had a realization that something had to change.
If we're gonna go back to grade school for a minute, like, I mean, I could probably think of some sooner too, but I mean, it's got to be when I found out that Cowley was pregnant with Caden, my oldest son. I mean, it's got to be, dude. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest life-altering moments because, dude, and I want to be respectful to her because, my son listens to our podcast and she even listens to it too. So it's not that she's a bad person or anything. I did not want to be with her. Okay. Yeah. But my whole life, a few of the good things that my dad always did say and teach me was like, I guess they're man up moments for me, right? Because my dad was always like, hey, if you're gonna do something, do it right. You know what I mean? If you're gonna create a situation, you better be responsible for it, right? And those are some of the things that he did kind of raise and instill in us when we were young. And so, I tried a lot of things, man. Like I was like, well, we broke up. And you were hanging out with other dudes. That ain't my kid, I'm just a scared 17-year-old kid, man. I'm like, I'm not ready to have a kid, you know what I mean? But as it got closer and closer, and I was just started thinking, man, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life, man? Like I went snowboarding one day, I broke my fucking arm. Yeah. I was like, damn, right before this kid's coming, I break my arm. I had just gotten a job so that I could start saving money for when the kid came, and so. Dude, like I'm literally with a broken arm down at Smith's grocery store pushing carts with one fucking arm because I couldn't not take the job. Yeah. I was like, damn, why did I go snowboarding, right? But dude, when he was born and it was all like confirmed, like this is my son, like I'm like, oh my gosh, man, I have got to get to work, right? Yeah. And I can't push carts the rest of my life, so. Dude, I went through so many things, like joining the military, which I didn't end up going, but I went through all the hoops of getting sworn in, going up, taking the test, doing all this shit, but I ended up never going to boot camp. Luckily, I found sales before that. But dude, it really pushed me to just like find an opportunity or find something that I could work my ass off and really provide for, right? Provide for this family. And so that was really a life-altering moment for me, man, was like, just, man, holding that kid in my arms and only being 17, 18 I was 18 by the time I had him, but just being this kid myself and holding this child, like, oh my gosh, I've got to change. Because I was a shithead, man. Yeah. I was snowboarding, sloughing school, didn't graduate high school, I wasn't really smoking weed and shit because I did that in like I did that in like 9th grade. I didn't like it.
That was back,
I ran around with that shit, hooligans that did weed and stuff for a little while too. But man, just holding him in my arms, man, that was a real life altering moment. I was like, okay, this is a man up moment. Like I'm working the rest of my damn life and I've got a family now, And so, and we've talked a little bit about that in previous episodes, but that, if we're going to talk about life altering moments, that was probably one of my biggest, man. Like I had to now take on a mindset of, not just providing, but like always trying to be an example to them as well. Like you can do anything. Like you can work, you can get yourself out of any situation. You can turn every negative situation to a positive one. Like being a good example is just a huge thing for me and my family. And so that was like kind of a moment of realizing that.
Well, you could have took that moment and just kind of folded your cards, right? And said, shit, well, I'm not going to amount to anything. I'm just going to go get a regular, job. I'm going to keep pushing carts and work my way up to cashier and do this or whatever. I'm not saying that anything's bad about that, but at the end of the day.
Or I could have just given up for adoption.
Yeah. There's plenty
we had family members that begged us to do that.
Yeah.
We even had family members who were like, we'll adopt him. That were my ex-wife's family members. And like, dude, we thought about it. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe that's what's best for the kid.
Yeah.
But at the end of the moment, I was like, man, that's, I guess, really the turning moment of holding him in my arms. It's just like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I am capable.
Yeah.
I can come up with excuses all day long of why I could give him up for adoption, of why, I want to go to college, or I want to go do this,
and nobody would have blamed you for it either.
I'm not a good dad anyway. I'm too young. I could have done all that shit.
Nobody would have said that you're an asshole for doing it at 17, 18 years old. They would have said, oh, yeah, at least you are trying to do what's right for the, that's what it been. It would have been wrapped in a pretty bow for you to be able to do something like that. And not have anybody come and be harsh on you. Yeah. Right.
And no, you know what? No disrespect to people that have given kids up for adoption or whatever. Maybe that is what was really best for them.
Yeah.
And for that kid. But for me, it was like, you know what? I know I can do this. I'm just gonna man up right now.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna man up. I'm gonna work every day. I'm gonna work my ass off. I'm gonna level up as a human. And do the best job. I just felt so much love, dude. I just felt so much love. If you had a kid and I didn't feel that love, maybe I should have given up for adoption. Yeah. But I felt so much love and like just inspiration and motivation and everything that you feel like in those moments for this kid. And I was like, I just got to go,
Yeah.
So that was a really big turning moment for me, dude. One of them. So nothing to really do with business, but I have a business one I can get to next.
Yeah. No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not, let's be real. That moment right there where you accepted that responsibility ultimately helped you make different decisions, which led you into a different job that then provided enough income for you to ultimately eventually start a business. Yeah. Right? So you can kind of start connecting the dots and putting things together, right? Yeah. Because if you would have gave Caden up for adoption, you maybe wouldn't had that same motivation to say, man, I need to get it into gear, because you were still only needing to worry about yourself. You could still push carts. You could still, and then maybe you wouldn't have found sales, which maybe you wouldn't have found that higher income, and then it ended up being, who knows, right? And so, definitely probably a very much life-altering moment. Now Caden, if he listens to this, he's going to want more money from you now that you're successful. Now that he's like, hey, it's because of me.
You owe me, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you know what, dude? Every kid I've had has fueled it even more, bro. Yeah. Because you know what, man? Like, dude, when I think about what my why is, my purpose is, like, it always comes back to the family, man. I'm a fucking family man, dude. Yeah. I just am. And that at the end of the day, man, like, I just know that's who I am. But having Caden, my first, and being, youngster and having all those options and where I could have just,
walked
went
away
the other way
or
whatever. That was a really big turning point, and it has led to a lot of things. Yeah. So. And it has led to a lot of the successes, I think, too, because it's what fuels me.
That's the thing is when you say, well, it's not really business related, I think it's more business related than what people even realize, because every decision that you make will ultimately, it's the ripple effect, right? Mm-hmm. It will affect you in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or whatever it is, right? So just because maybe if somebody's listening to this and they make a little life-altering choice, that doesn't mean life-altering where you've got to try to go be an entrepreneur immediately, but maybe they do switch gears and go into a different job that's a little bit higher paying that ultimately helps them save money so that they can invest or start a business or whatever, right? And so it doesn't have to be direct from, I'm a waiter or waitress to now an entrepreneur. Yeah. Maybe you go from a waiter to waitress to wanting to go into sales and do something a little bit different that can make more money. And again, she still changed the trajectory of your life, so to speak, right? Absolutely. And so I think it is very relatable for anybody that's listening, because there's a lot of self-evaluating going on right now in the world. And as it should be, right? When there's downtime, you should be evaluating. You shouldn't just be sitting idle waiting for things to go back to normal, because the majority of people's normals is living paycheck to paycheck. And you don't want to go back to that if that was your normal, right?
Totally. Dude, I actually saw a post today in one of the groups that we're a part of a guy's like, well, it's official. I got laid off. He was in the oil industry. Yeah. But he had some skills and some side things that he did to make money, and it's kind of forced him to go all in. Yeah. You know, and it's like, holy shit, dude. Like, you know, I think people should have kind of like, almost everybody should have skill sets on top of their jobs as side hustles, because that's just more protection for you when shit like this happens. Now it's like, at least I have something I can go all in on that's for me, right? That is, you know, for my own business or my own opportunity. Yeah. So, I think side hustles are huge, bro. And in times like this, I feel like the people that have had side hustles, they're going to go through some damn struggles right now, getting laid off and all that. But at least they have something they can go all in on, rather than just sit at home and
and do nothing.
Wait for the economy to come back, which who knows when that could be.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you the problem is waiting. You're letting external forces control or dictate how your life is ultimately going to end up, right? So if you're in the waiting mode, you're waiting for something else to happen for you to progress. Yeah, it doesn't happen like that.
It doesn't, man.
You know, you have to be the individual that progresses yourself, no matter the circumstance that's around you, right?
You have to. Yeah.
And so, I mean, even just yesterday, I was DMing back and forth with a professional rugby player, right? He basically saying, hey, I can't play rugby forever, you know, and I've been listening to you guys, love your guys' stuff. You know, I'm thinking about doing this and starting to do an e-com business and do some drop shipping stuff or whatever. And he's like, do you think I should do it? And I said, just depends on whether you think that, you know, you have the time, the money, the patience to build something like that, because it's going to take time, just with anything else. That's any business in general. Yeah. So it's not specifically to that type of industry or business, but it'll probably take 3 to 5 years to build something that could be special and really ultimately serve you for many, many years to come. Yeah. You know, and he's just trying to figure out if that's something that he wants to do. And I said, dabble in it. I said, right now you should be toying with a couple different things, dabbling in a few different things, and kind of see what lights your fire. And if it's something that you get excited about and you like it and you're getting some traction, then double down on it, you know, after your rugby career's over or whatever it is, right? So even an individual like that can't be out there playing professional sports is already thinking about the next potential move, because sports was taken away from him for a moment. So then it makes you start thinking differently, like, shit, this could be taken away from me. An injury, it could be taken away from you, right? And you know you can't do that forever. You're not going to be a 60-year-old rugby player. Yeah, it'd be impressive, but I don't think it's going to, you know, unless they
someone might do it one day.
Yeah, somebody might. Tom Brady's like freaking 80 and he's still playing. God, he's found the fountain of youth. But anyways, so the next story that I want to come to is again, when I was 19 years old, you know, surrounded myself with the wrong people. I started using, you know, painkillers, ended up escalating to the point where I was a full-blown heroin addict, you know, using on a day-to-day basis. When I was 23 years old, just basically a bum at that point, right? No car, you know, at 23, cell phone. Not everybody had cell phones yet, right? Yeah. Half the homies had cell phones, right? The other ones you were calling on the house line, you know, hey, is Kale there? You know, or whatever, right? As the parents pick up the phone or whatever. What's sad is
tell your sister, get off the other line. I'm on the phone.
Yeah. What's sad is you got the homies that, you know, 22, 23, calling the house line, asking your mom, like, hey, is Trevor around? It's like, that's still so embarrassing. And they got a phone, you know. Yeah. You ain't going to try to hand out your number to no babes. Calling the house line. Should I give me your number? I'll call you. I'm broke. Anyways, so I was a flat out loser. Like, that's just the truth, right? Like, there's no reason to sugarcoat it. It is what it is. And so it got to the point where, you know, my parents were pretty fed up, you know, and I got kicked out, right? They caught me basically doing a deal on the side of the house, right? And they said, get out of here. Like, our house, that's not what our house is, right? Yeah. And so,
respect.
Yeah, dude, I don't blame them. You know, they should have done it years earlier. Heck yeah. If anything, I blame them for not doing that, right? But anyways, so I got kicked out. I'm literally walking up the street, you know, and it's I was about a mile in, and that was a long mile. where I was, going over a lot of thoughts, which I hadn't really done in a long time.
Go?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?
I didn't have I didn't even have a penny in my pocket. Like, that's like not a joke. No, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't know who I was going to call
or how
I would
no credit card.
None of that.
You can't Uber. You can't call an Uber up with your debit card.
So I'm literally walking up the street, and those thoughts are coming. Where am I going to sleep tonight?
Yeah.
Where am I even walking to? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I was going to basically try to find the first gas station, borrow a phone, and try to call a friend or something, like try to figure it out. But I was lost, right? Mm-hmm. At 23, walking up the road, and all these thoughts going through my mind, and, thinking about all the people that I went to high school with, and this, and, these people are graduating college. They're doing something with their life, so to speak, right? And I'm 23, living at home. Now I just got kicked out, and I'm homeless, right? Mm-hmm. Don't know where the hell I'm going. And so I came to the conclusion in that moment that I was a full-blown loser. Which, I mean, that's a difficult thing to admit to yourself. Nobody likes to admit that they're a loser, right? Yeah. You always try to give yourself a little bit of credit. You look back on some of your past wins, whether it was, hey, I used to be strong, or I used to be good at baseball. I'm not a loser, right? Like, I've done some cool shit.
So the first step for you wasn't admitting you were an addict. It was admitting you were a loser.
Straight up. I had to admit that I was a full-blown loser.
Yeah. Which actually would be kind of harder, like admitting that you're a loser over an addict, right? Like, I'm an addict, now I can start recovery. Yeah. No, I'm a fucking loser.
I'm a loser. I'm not doing shit with my life. Yeah. I'm 23. I've turned 24 within the next month, and I have nothing to my name.
Yeah.
And it's and so that was a long walk. Lots of thoughts going through my mind. And then next thing you know, my mom pulls up in the car about a mile in. And said, "I'll give you one more shot."
It's always the moms, man.
She's yeah.
What would we do without moms?
Yeah, right. So she said she'd give me one more shot. So I hopped in the car, right? After that was I guess if you're at a weird spot in your life, go for a mile walk. Like,
or 10.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work on the first mile, go another one. Just continue to have and just think, right? Yeah. And really evaluate where you're at in your life, and determine if you're a loser.
Yeah. Well, remember Jason? He was on our podcast. He did like a 600-mile walk.
Oh, yeah.
Because he had a brain tumor.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. That's insane. It only took me
at least a mile, guys. At least a mile.
Yeah. Don't shortcut it. I'm not saying 600, but definitely a mile. And so I hopped in the car, whatever. We ended up going up to the mountains, going camping, basically removing myself from any phones, where I can get a hold of people. I was such a loser where I would take stuff out of my parents' house. I would pawn their stuff, whatever it was, to try to get money so that I could get my fix, right? And all those thoughts were coming to my head too as I was walking down that. I'm like, I've literally, now I have all the people that actually really truly care about me, even they are now in the past, right? Like they kicked me out of their house. I got that low to where even my loved ones, I didn't feel loved, right? And so I knew something was wrong, and I guess I could blame it on everybody else, and they just don't understand.
Which a lot of people do.
And I'm a victim. Yeah. They kicked me out. No, I kicked myself out by the actions that I was ultimately taking, and I was making their life more difficult, right?
100%.
So, anyways, I sat up in the mountains, shitting myself, puking, curled up in a ball, going through the whole withdrawals and detox or whatever for a week, and as I was going through that moment, that was a the long walk paired with the withdrawals. I just told myself in that moment that I will never go through anything like this ever again.
Yeah.
Right. I know some people do the one day at a time thing or whatever it is, but when I made a commitment to myself that this is not okay. This is not a way to live, and I will never ever put myself in a situation where I feel this much pain, hurt, that you have to go through when you're going through withdrawals. It's most addicts want to get away from it. They just can't get through the withdrawal phase, right? It's just so painful. So that in that moment, I just made a full blown commitment that I will never go back to it again. This will not ever be a part of my life because I don't ever want to end up in this moment shivering, shaking, and in this much pain again. Yeah. And that was a life altering moment, right? Yeah. To where that changed the trajectory of my life. And after I got clean, went back into sales and started making money again. And
dude, I'm glad. I remember because I knew you before all that.
Yeah.
I didn't really know you during, because I know I had a family.
I was a recluse,
I had a family,
Yeah, when you're a drug addict,
I wasn't going out with the homies and stuff. And
it's not like you're trying to hang out.
Single crowds.
When you're a drug addict, all you're trying to do is come out of your house to find what you need to find and go back in.
But I'm glad you went through it, man, because I've seen how you've handled a lot of people. Because us owning sales companies, we've seen a lot of guys come in with problems, and you've always identified them quickly. Yeah. You've always dude, I remember so many talks you've had with guys where, they're just like, oh, I'm just taking it one day at a time, man. I'm staying clean. I'm my month clean. You're like, dude, you need to close that damn door. Like quit leaving it an inch open. Yeah. Like, oh, one day at a time bullshit. Like, great, you're a recovering addict. You're done with it. Yeah. Close the damn door. Put it in the past. I know you can do it because I did it.
Nothing positive came from it. Yeah. So why would you ever want to go back to it? And why would you want to have to think about it daily, like one day at a time? Now, maybe for the first month or 2 or 3 or whatever, maybe that's what they need to do to get through it.
Yeah.
But then eventually a habit should be formed where you now live a new life, and that's just a part of your past, right?
Dude, I'm probably gonna offend some people saying this, but I don't really care because I can't really relate to being a drug addict. Like, we all have our addictions as humans, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
But I just read a post this morning from a girl that was like, I hate addiction. I love everybody that's ever dealt with it. And her whole post was, it never goes away. So it is such a struggle. And I'm like, that is such bullshit. Now, granted, she's probably only been clean 5 or 6 months or something, right?
Yeah,
so that's really what she thinks.
That's her truth.
But
that's her truth.
Do not have to stay a drug addict forever. It's not a part of you forever. Like, I just disagree with that. Like, you really can close that door and put that in a chapter in your life in the past, and looking forward, be like, I'm not a drug addict anymore. And I don't have to hold on to the fact that I was and that I'm always gonna be, but I'm gonna always fight it. Like, you can literally.
To me, that's like kind of like having somewhat of a victim mentality. Like, it has a hold over me, and I'm a victim of being an addict or whatever it is, right?
And I feel for her because she, like you said, that is her truth.
Yeah.
But I disagree with it, man. If you really work at it and you close the door like you did, and you really put it behind you,
create a new identity for yourself. That's no longer a part of who you are.
Find a new addiction, man. Like business.
Like working out, exercising. You're now a marathon runner.
Yeah.
Identify as that. Figure out how to identify as something outside of something negative as an identifying
find a healthy addiction.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's 100% true. Yeah. And again, I do think addicts are very resourceful people, right? They wake up broke every day and they get their fix and all that good stuff, right? And so I do believe that that they have some sort of weird go-getter mentality if they really want something bad enough. Addicts are normally people that when they do something, they do it 100%.
Yeah.
Because there are people that dabble with drugs, right? And they can be a weekender and then they go back to their normal life on Monday or whatever it is. But addicts are, they go 100%. Right? And so even if it's a negative thing, they're going 100% and it eats up their whole life. Totally. But that same individual gearing that energy, that resourcefulness to something positive, whether it is exercising, whether it is money, whether it is, trying to find their best self through absorbing information, reading. Maybe they identify as somebody that is constantly learning and evolve, whatever it is, right? Yeah. They identify as a marathon runner or a biker or whatever they want to identify as. But I wouldn't want to identify myself as a victim of something that put me in a bad situation at one point in my life. Yeah. I would rather. I don't think about those years. I only think about the moment up in the hills with me shaking and going through the pain. Why? Because I want to keep that experience close to heart so that I never want to go back, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to identify as being a drug addict as, that pain.
Right.
Not, the high that you feel when you use, right? So it's all what you tie it to,
right.
that experience, or how you identify it as pain and hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's not something that I want to go back to. Right. And so I think people just need to shift their perspective and their way of thinking.
They got to get out of it somehow to really see that, though.
They need to identify it as
victims have a really hard
time
doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do. They are a victim to their addiction.
You can tell them.
They have to work on it daily. But the problem is like after a certain, like, dude, I get texts like, happy anniversary. I'm like, for what? They're like, dude, you're like 7 years clean.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not even focused on that day. The only reason why I know is because it was like a month before my birthday.
Right.
But to me, I don't wake up like saying, hey, that's my 12-year clean anniversary, whatever. The problem I sometimes think with the clean system is always they're looking for that little reward and recognition for doing something good. Right?
Yeah.
Your 1 year, your 2 year, your 3 year. So it's always still a part of your life.
Yeah.
Addiction is always a part of your life because you're constantly talking about it and you're getting these little rewards along the way.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk about it anymore. I didn't care to get recognized for something negative that I had did in the past. Yeah. Why am I celebrating being clean for 2, 3, 4, 5 years when I should have never been dirty?
Right.
I made a bad choice, right? And so that's how I look at it. And I'm not saying I'm right. You know, maybe I don't have it all figured out, but I'm just saying I'm just giving my perspective.
Well, and I've seen
subject.
Your experience, and that's why I know it's going to piss people off by saying like, dude, you're not an addict forever. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I've seen you do it. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
but when I went to alcohol, I went hard on alcohol. Yeah. I after being a drug addict, I went to alcohol and was blacking out 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah. So I go 100% with everything I do, but it started making me realize like, I better be careful about the choices that I make because if I drink a lot, I'm blacking out constantly. Yeah. Like I just don't know how to regulate myself because I go too hard at too many things. Whether it's working out in some case, right. I like the harder workouts, right? Yeah. I like to push myself and push the limits, and whether it's good or bad. The problem is you just need to start doing more positive stuff if you're that type of person rather than bad stuff. It doesn't, it's easy to connect the dots there. It is. That's so cool. That was definitely a life altering moment for me that got me back into sales, got me making money. And, here we are today as partners and owning businesses and talking on a podcast. So
yeah, dude, it's awesome, man. I've seen you help a lot of people, dude, because of that experience. So
yeah,
it is good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't regret going through it, because here we are, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And I feel like that they can try to play this weird card of addiction, and and I can say, cool, so have I.
Yeah.
But you can't play that card with me. Yeah. You might be able to play it with your mom or dad or uncle or brother or sister that don't know, but I know.
Yeah.
I know that you just have to be at such a low point. You just haven't hit rock bottom yet in order to want to make a change.
Yeah.
You're still getting by. And that's the whole point of this podcast is the fact is getting by is a very, very scary place because as long as you are getting by and you're not fully at rock bottom, you're going to continue to go down that same path, and it's a path of mediocrity. It's a path of nothingness.
Yeah.
It's a path of basically depression because you're going to it has to be a normal thought on a day-to-day basis. Like, is this really what life is about? Again, getting by is the scariest. I would rather be at a rock bottom place because at least that is a place of self-evaluation. Yeah. It's a place that could put you in a situation where you can change your life. Until the day you say that this is not okay, when you pull up to your house and you look at your house, if you say this is not okay and you start looking around at your surroundings and say, I shouldn't be living like this. This is not okay. At that moment, you will start making different decisions. As long as you're getting by and you're not really analyzing your situation, you're not looking deep into the way that you live or the income that you generate or the people that you surround yourself with,
right?
Then you're just going to continue to get by.
Right.
you need to analyze the people you surround yourself with and say that this is not okay. This is not the group I want to be around. Yeah. They're not who I want to be like.
Yeah.
The home you live in, this is not okay. The car you drive, the life you live, whatever it is, until you find the moment where you say this is not okay, you're going to continue to live on the exact way that you've always lived. And that's very scary.
100%, dude. I'm saying 100% a lot.
1,000%, dude. I'm on
Damn
trumpet.
Nally, dude. He rubbed off on me.
He did.
He says that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. No, that's good, dude. That's good. Shit.
So I'm hoping a lot of people hit a low point during this. Not necessarily in hopes of watching them struggle forever.
Yeah.
It's in hopes that they hit such a low spot that they say that this is not okay. They self-evaluate and they start altering their choices, and their choices ultimately start altering the way they live their life. And you know, it's just kind of the domino effect. Yeah, then 1 year, 2 years, 5 years go by, and you're in a completely different situation than what you were.
Yeah.
Right.
And everybody has different areas of their life where they're at these low points, everyone's rock bottom is different as well, man. Like, true. You know, I was getting by, making good money and doing all that shit, but like I said earlier, I was in a horrible marriage. Yeah. It wasn't all her fault. It was my fault too. Yeah. And dude, I sat there for years, man. I sat there for years. I treated her horribly. She treated me horribly. That wasn't what was best for our kids. I had 2 with her at this point.
That was not okay.
You know? Yeah. Yeah. And so, dude, but that's what pushed me into actually getting personal development. You know what I mean? Like
hitting a low point.
Dude, yeah. I finally got to a point where I was like, I can't continue being treated like this or treating her like this. Yeah. You know, and it's led me to personal development, improvements in business, a wife that I adore now because of the work I was able to do on myself and attract that. But that's not the second story. That's still actually part of the first story. But the second story is I mean, dude, I want to go back to the side hustle thing, because I am so glad I had a side hustle going with Jeremy on that Forex thing. Yep. Even though I probably wouldn't have gotten fired had I not had the side hustle, because that was the whole reason I got fired. Yeah. But dude, I am so glad that I got fired, but I had that side hustle to go all in on, kind of like we talked about a minute ago. And that was probably another huge life-altering moment, man, because like I always wanted to be a business owner. I was just scared of it. Of
course.
Right? And so
you got forced into it.
Having that side hustle though, like, I can have this side hustle. I can come home, make calls at night with Jared. We can figure this shit out. Like, it was fun. Like, dude, I'd come home after working 10 hours a day and work another 3-4 hours with Jeremy, and it was cool.
Exciting, new,
it was
different.
Exciting. It was
You're
new.
building something. Yeah.
But that it wasn't having a side hustle that was life altering. It was getting fired and being like, oh my God, I'm going from making $12,000 a month. Yeah. To now 0, because this thing doesn't even bring in positive cash flow. Luckily, I had a little bit of savings, not a ton. I had a little bit, and I was using it to get things off the ground. Yeah. But dude, getting fired was a huge moment to kind of channel me to being a full-time business owner, and just the whole mental part of it, man. Just, you know, like, I have to make this work for my family, my loved ones, for me, for Jeremy, for his family, for his loved ones.
But in that moment, it was probably that was probably a weird drive home.
Oh, dude, I cried.
Okay. So that was the low. Yeah. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah. Dude, I loved those guys I worked with. Yeah. I felt like I let that company down that I loved working for. It was weird. Like, I felt guilty for having a side hustle because that was the reason they fired me, which is all bullshit. Yeah. But I mean, dude, I'm glad. I'm so glad. And dude, when he fired me, he was like, you know, if you're not here 100%, you're not here at all. Yeah. I don't like that you have anything on the side. I know it's not competing. I don't care. You're not here 100%. You're not here at all. I'm kicking you off the fence. Those were his words. Yeah. And then he said, you'll probably thank me one day. And I was just like,
thanks, Ted.
Damn. You know, I've had a lot of moments where I look back like, damn, he was right, dude. Yeah. Because I did learn a lot from him too. But man, I'll tell you, dude, like, that was a really hard moment to come home, and I was still married to my first wife at this time, and just be like, I don't know how we're gonna pay all these bills. Like, we've only got a few months of savings. You had that big
nice house that was probably $2,500 a month or something like that. Mm-hmm. What was your mortgage on it?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was.
So now you've got no income. Did you have your truck, your diesel, your Chevy?
No, I had I had a car at that time, I had a Lexus.
Well, I mean, again, you still had what, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, probably just in bills in general, car payments, house, utilities, food,
kids.
Yeah, exactly.
They're in activities, everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, and so, I did. I felt like a big piece of shit. Like, dude, I'd only been fired one other time in my life, and it was when I was in high school. I showed up 5 minutes late for a job. I overslept. And I'm actually glad for that moment too, because this old timer, Kenny Tall, he's passed away now. Dude worked on trailers in trailer parks as a handyman, and he needed a little sidekick to hand him tools and help make cuts and all that shit. And I just needed a job in high school. And it was a good moment, man. I show up 5 minutes late, like 5 days into working for him. He said, "Hey, get off my job, you're fired." And I was like, "What do you mean, man? I sped over here." He's like, "I don't care what your reasons were. We start at this time. You're not here. You're not reliable. You're done." He came down off a ladder, hand wrote me a check, and sent me, and I felt like a piece of shit that day. So I never wanted to be fired again, bro. Like I had a goal to never be fired again. So when I got fired from Ted, I was just like, oh, dude, I felt like a piece of shit. Like, but I was so glad I had that side hustle. It forced me to go all in on it. And I did have that realization in that moment after a couple of days of feeling sorry for myself for being a bum and getting fired.
You were the victim for a minute.
Yeah. I was like, okay. Well, I don't want to be controlled by somebody else for the rest of my life. I want to be able to control my outcome. I want to be able to control my destiny, and that is being a business owner. And so, dude, that was a huge moment. So,
and here we are.
Yeah,
recording a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I again, the things that we're talking about and the stories that we're sharing. Maybe not the middle school working out one, but led us here, right? It put us again. There's a huge ripple effect, and I just think that I know that there's a lot of people going through a lot right now, and whether it's the fact that you don't have income coming in. Whether it's the fact that you got laid off in general, where there's nothing to go back to. Some people have something to go back to, which I think is scary.
And I'm not saying you should just go start a business right now.
No,
you know what I mean? Because it is hard.
Yeah.
But I think people should have side hustles or skill sets aside from their jobs. And dude, if they don't have the money to put in or some savings to go all in on a business right now, they should have a job. Like, go get another one, get two. But peel some of that money off to put into your thing over here, that your other skill sets where you can be your own boss and all that as well, man. Because, I mean, if you eventually one day want to be, in control of you, not controlled by a company and all that shit, like, you got to have something. You got to have some skill sets.
Again, that's the issue is I honestly think getting by is the scariest, I don't know what to call it, like level, or I don't know what the right word is. Because sometimes you hear the stories of homeless people end up coming out of homelessness and ended up becoming successful or whatever it is, right? But the reality is I would potentially still be a drug addict because I was getting by every day. I would do enough to get by until the moment where I had nothing.
And dude, we've even gone there in business too. I remember when business started crumbling a little bit, and I took that job selling solar. And I'm glad I did, because I had a reawakening of like, dude, the business isn't crumbling. I'm crumbling. If I was working this hard at home, the business wouldn't be crumbling, right? And so even in business, you can get there. You're going to have those moments as well. And so even when you get your business to a point of where you're like, oh, it's getting by, it's going great, that you're instantly going to start going back down. Like, you can't get comfortable at that.
They say satisfaction.
Getting by
point. Satisfaction is the death of desire. And when you're getting by, you're just satisfied. You're not trying to reach to the next level because you don't feel like that, again, you're missing out on anything. You have your home, your car, your this. You're just kind of, again, going through life on autopilot. Right? You really... I just think a lot of people have far more potential than what they're actually living up to. And I hope that this whole virus thing puts people in a situation where they actually realize that, and they hit the low point that needs to be hit, whether it's crying on your way home from getting fired that ultimately changed your life, whether it's shivering or shaking up in the mountains in a very rock bottom place that changed my life, right? The theme here is out of negative, positive can come out, right? Like, in most cases, you have to hit a very, very, very negative situation in order for something positive to come out, right?
You got to let the positive come out of it, right? By actually making a choice, by actually like evaluating some self-awareness,
evaluating,
you know what I mean?
Because you took a few days and you evaluated.
Accountability.
Exactly.
Right? Like you start taking some accountability for where you're at, boom, some positive things can now start coming in.
Well, I hope it was a good one.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly think that there will be a group of individuals that will come out of this, and in 5 or 10 years, they'll look back and this whole situation was probably going to be the best thing that ever happened to them because it forced them to reroute and do something a little bit different.
It's
right?
True. Yeah. I hope so too, man. I mean, we had to let an employee go, this week, and it's like, you know what? I hope, and it wasn't because of Corona or anything like that, but I hope that they can take some accountability and in 3, 4, 5 years from now, they're like, dude, I'm so glad that I hit that rock bottom point, you know, so that I could shift gears. That's kind of what this is all about, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta.
Let's see. I'm trying to find just a review here. Being in a collision industry, this podcast has given me a different outlook on what I wanted for my future. I've always wanted to own and manage my own body shop, but I've always had an excuse or wasn't ready. Needless to say, now I'm more driven than ever. Thank y'all for all the content y'all spit out. Deep in the heart of Texas. You know they're from Texas when they're saying y'all multiple times. So this is from DC for 1985. So again, this individual did what we were talking about. He got to the point where he was getting by and he was comfortable, and then he created excuses not to expand or go to the next level.
Yeah.
The getting by situation, he just was stuck there. He was satisfied, which satisfaction is the death of desires. We just barely said. So it's I think what Ed always says is like a blissful dissatisfaction, right? Always be dissatisfied with your current situation, but still also somehow in a state of bliss. It's kind of a weird thing to juggle, but that's obviously something that we're trying to figure out ourselves, right?
Yeah, man. Like we're always trying to level up, or where can we improve? And we know, we still fail in areas and we still have to start over in areas. I'm just like anybody else, but dude, like I've had some messages come over on my personal Instagram lately, dude. And I'm just like, dude, it means so much to get reviews like that or have people reach out and be like, dude, you guys helped me this and that. And it's like, nah, man, you did it. But I'm so glad that we're able to put a voice out there where people are like, damn, these guys have been through some shit and built some shit. And, like we got a long way to go, but I'm glad that some people are making some changes and it's, some of the advice we give is actually working for them. So
no, it's awesome.
So thank you for that review. Yeah. What was his name? DC something?
DC L4 1985.
Well, you're a badass, bro, and your body shop's gonna kill it.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Exactly. So just hire easier accounting when all that the money's coming in. We'll account
Don't
for
forget.
it, brother. Yeah, exactly. The shameless plug. I don't know if it's shameless. It's shameful. All right, guys. We wish you well. Hope you guys are doing awesome. And if you're not, evaluate and change the trajectory of your life.
Yep, I like that.
Take care, guys.
Take care.